Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Year 4 Maths this morning. Hope this finds you well. I'll warm up this morning, as usual, 4 questions, 2 that are written method, 2 that you might then have a go at in your head. Press pause while you're working and press play when you're ready. Try and answer all the questions in as close to 5 minutes as you possibly can. Press pause now. Okay, first question this morning, we're going to look at 90 times 8, question D. This will be using and applying a known multiplication fact, so you need to know your tables. First of all, first job, remember, cover the magic 0. That leaves us with 9 times 8. 9 eighths then are 72. Release your magic 0, and it jumps to the end of the number there, which means that 72 becomes 720. Second question this morning, we're going to look at question A. It's the other mental strategy question. 7 plus 8 plus 7. First thing I'm going to be doing is looking at the 3 numbers. And I can see there I've got 2 7s. If I've got 2 7s, the first thing I'm going to do then is double up. Okay, so double 7 would be 14, and then I need to add 8 to it, which would make 22. Or method 2, I would add 8 and 7 together because I know that those 2 added together make 15, and then add another 7 on, which would be 22. Personally, if it was me, I prefer method 1, but it's entirely up to you. Okay, third question is question B, and it's question mark there, so a mystery number equals 543 plus 598. Some of you get a little confused with the question mark coming first. Remember, you can reorder the sentence. Switch it about. That equal sign is a set of scales. It just means that what's on one side must equal the same as what's on the other. So you can switch it. And in this case, that would make it 543 plus 598 equals the mystery number. So firstly, I'm going to know straight away I need to actually calculate here. I need to work out what these 2 numbers are added together. So 3 plus 8 would be 11. I would carry this 1 across into the tens column. 4 plus 9 would be 13, and then I would add 1 that I'd carried over to make it 14. And then I would be 5 plus 5 would be 10, plus 1 would be 11. So my answer then would be 1,141. Or, and I do quite like it with this particular sum, this calculation, I could partition. So I would say, okay, I've got 2 lots of 500. So 500 plus 500 would be 1,000. I've got 90 plus 40, which would be 130. And I've got 3 plus 8, which would be 11. So I would then need to recombine the numbers. And if I add them all together, I end up with 1141, which matches our answer over here. Final question is probably the trickiest one this morning. The question is, question C here, 8 times a mystery number equals 136. Now, if you're anything like me, I know my 8 times table. I know all the way up to 12 times 8 is 96. But after that, I don't really know them. So for me to answer this question, I think I needed to invert the calculation to turn it from a multiplication into a division. Okay. Inverse operation, the opposite of multiply, is divide. So if I'm going to turn it into a division, I'd start with the answer, the largest number, which will be 136, and I would divide it by the only other number that I know, which is 8. So 136 divided by 8, and then I'd be able to find my answer. If I'm going to set it up as a division, then I'm going to turn it into a bus stop method. So it's 136. So 8s into 1 don't go. Okay, so I need to move my 1 across here to make the number 13. So 8s into 13 is 1. Put my 1 up there. But I still have 5 left over. So I put the 5 in here and I turn this number then into 56. So 8s into 56 is 7. So my number then, my answer to the question would be 17. Okay, so 17 times 8 would be 136. And I could test that. If I wanted to check my answer was correct, I take the answer, which is 17, and times it by 8. That will leave me with 136. Okay, our learning intention this morning. We're looking at measuring length this morning. So we're going to be building on yesterday's lesson where we measured height, and we're going to be thinking about measuring the sides of shapes this morning. So our star words this morning, we've got measure, we've got distance, I've got meters in there, but I'm not sure we're going to use meters today, but I've left it in there anyway because it is still relevant. Centimeters, very important today. And I've put perimeter in there because that's quite important this morning in terms of our in focus learning and our guided practice. Okay, our in focus question this morning is looking at perimeter. So first of all, I'm going to ask you to press pause, and I want you to discuss either with somebody at home or think for yourselves, what does the word perimeter mean? We have used it this year. What does the word perimeter mean? Press pause now. Okay, the word perimeter then. Perimeter means distance around the outside of a shape. Okay, so the perimeter of this triangle here would be the distance added up all around the outside of the shape. And the question this morning is saying, is the perimeter of the triangle more than 20 centimeters? Okay, so we're going to think about what we might need to do to be able to check that question. What we will do during the course of the lesson, when we come to our plenary at the end, is we'll come back to this question and we'll have a little talk about how we could deepen our learning with it. Okay, first thing to notice this morning, with shapes, usually the corners or the vertices, we normally give them a letter, just so we can identify the sides that we're talking about. So here, we're going to be measuring R, Y. So R is this corner here, or vertex here, and this is the corner or vertex Y here. We've also got T, but we're not using that yet. Okay, now that's really important so you can identify which side it is that you are measuring. The question up here is asking, what's the length of RY in centimeters? So you can see there that I've started measuring start with 0 there. I've got 10 centimeters, okay, to here, and then I've got 0.7 of a centimeter there. So my answer here, the length of RY is 10.7 centimeters. Okay, now it's your turn. I want you to have a look at my ruler here. We've lined it up on the sides that you're going to be measuring. I want to know what TR is, so the length of that line, and I want to know what TY is, the length of that line. Press pause while you're having a look, and then press play when you're ready to resume. Okay, so the first one then, TR, we have 7 whole centimeters and then 0.2 of a centimeter. So 7.2 centimeters for the first one. And then the second line down here, TY, we've got 8.5 centimeters, 8.5 centimeters. So 8 whole centimeters and then another half a centimeter or 0.5 of a centimeter. Hopefully you managed to answer those questions correctly. Okay, so now that I've measured all of the sides, I know that from the first slide, the base of the triangle was 10.7 centimeters. The other two sides that you measured were 7.2 and 8.5. Now, what I'm going to do is round them to the nearest centimeter. So 10.7 is going to be close to 11 centimeters. 7.2 is going to be close to 7 centimeters. And 8.5 is going to be closer or rounded up to 9 centimeters. And if I add them all together, okay, I'm going to be left with 27 centimeters. So my estimate would be that the question asked, would the perimeter be greater than 20 centimeters? And I'm going to say in this case, yes, it would be. It would be, because I've measured my distances, I've rounded them to the nearest centimeter, and they are clearly going to be significantly more than 20 centimeters. Okay, now it's your turn to have a go at measuring some shapes. And what I want you to do with the first two shapes here is I'd like you to measure and label the sides that you've measured. So remember we talked about using letters for corners. So here, if I've got U and I've got C, then I need to write UC and then measure the distance there with a ruler. Okay, and we do the same with the triangle at the bottom here. When we come back together, we'll discuss what you've measured. Press pause now. Okay, hopefully you did all right with that. Let's just go through some of the answers then. So we've got for the first shape here, and we know there are going to be 4 measurements because it is a quadrilateral, and a quadrilateral has 4 sides. So side DU was measured at 5 centimeters. Side DK was 3.9 centimeters. UC we measured at 6.5 centimeters, and CK would be 6 centimeters. The shape below is a triangle. Okay, we know it's a triangle. All of us should be able to tell me that it's a triangle because it has 3 sides. So we only had to make 3 measurements this time. Now, all of the sides there have come in at the same distance, 5.2 centimeters. Hopefully you found that. What can you tell me about that shape then? Press pause now while you think about it and press play when you're ready to resume. Okay, yeah, you're quite right. Every single side is the same. Therefore, this triangle would be an equilateral triangle. It would be a triangle where all sides and angles are the same. Okay, have a go at this one. You've got a shape there. Again, it's a quadrilateral. Have a little go at measuring the sides there, and then come back and talk to me. What I want you to do is to think really carefully about what you're doing and what you're measuring here. Can you save yourself some time? Press pause now while you work and press play when you are ready to resume. Okay, right. Well, I recognised straight away that this was a quadrilateral. I could see that it was a 4-sided shape, 2D shape. I also looked at it and thought, they're all the same. So I knew that this was a square. So I only measured one side this time. I measured AT, which was 6.5 centimeters. If I wanted to find the perimeter of my shape then, I would either add up 4 lots of 6.5 or I would multiply it by 4. But because I could see it was a triangle, I could make less work for myself. Hopefully you all saw that as well. Okay, your next job then, let's draw a square that has a perimeter of about 20 centimeters. Draw a square that has a perimeter of about 20 centimeters. So you will need to find a way of working out what the side lengths on the square would be. So what do you need to remember in order to answer this? Well, I would argue that you need to know that perimeter is distance around the outside. You need to remember that it's a square, so all the sides will be the same length. Press pause while you're having a go at this and press play when you're ready to resume. Okay, well, the important thing to remember was that the square had 4 equal sides, and that if you divide the perimeter by 4, you would find the length of each side. So in this case, I know my perimeter is 20 centimeters, and I know that I've got 4 equal sides. So if I took 20 centimeters, I would then need to divide it by 4. Okay. Oops. Come back. So in this case, 20 divided by 4 will mean that my side lengths should be 5 centimeters. Should be 5 centimeters. So hopefully your square would have looked a little bit like this. Okay. Okay, final shape today, just before we set you off on independent this morning, is a little bit trickier. I want you to draw a triangle that has a perimeter of 20 centimeters. Now, I want you to think really carefully about this. Press pause while you're thinking and working, and press play when you're ready to hear me talk about it and discuss it. Okay, first thing here is to remember that a triangle has got 3 sides, but remember they don't have to be all the same length. And in this case, if I was trying to use and apply my knowledge from the square just now, it wouldn't work with this. Because if I have 20 centimeters and I try and divide that by 3, it becomes a bit messy and a bit tricky because 3 doesn't go exactly into 20 centimeters. So just remember, the triangle didn't all have to have sides the same length. In fact, I would have picked an isosceles triangle if it was me that was answering the question. Now, an isosceles triangle has 2 sides that are the same length and 1 that is not the same. So if it was me, I'd be doing something like that. And I would probably, randomly, I might pick 2 sides for my triangle that have 7 centimeters. And these would add up to 14 centimeters. Okay, if I know my perimeter then is 20, and I know 2 of my sides make 14, then the other one, the other remaining side, I would make 6 centimeters. And this would give me the perimeter of 20 centimeters. So this isn't the only way you could have done it, okay, but this is the way that I did it. It is possible that we could all have, 5, 10, 15 different triangle lengths here, okay? I'm not telling you that mine is the only way to do it, but personally, I just picked 2 sides, length of 2 sides that I knew would make 14, and then I found the difference from 14 to 20, which was my other side length. I'm sure that lots of you would have found lots of different ways of doing that. Okay, our independent learning this morning. Please complete worksheet 8 on pages 79 and 80 of your workbook. When you're press pause while you're working, and when you're finished, press play, and we'll just finish off with our plenary for this morning. Press pause now. Okay, for our plenary this morning, I'm just going back to the in focus task at the beginning. Now, we worked out the answer to this question by measuring the sides, but I'm going to ask you this morning to think, let's try and deepen the learning a little bit. What I'm going to say to you, is there any way that you could have answered this question without measuring any of the sides? Press pause while you're thinking about that, and press play when you're ready to hear me talk about it. Okay, so could we have done it without measuring sides? Now, it would have been difficult, but the young lady at the bottom here has given us a bit of a helping hand. She said that this line is 10 centimeters. The question was asking, is the perimeter more than 20? So I'd be thinking to myself, right, this line here, I can see clearly will take up most of this base here. So if that is going to be 10, and I was to think, looking at this length line here, I'd be thinking, well, it will probably be a bit longer. 10 centimeters will probably be a bit longer than this side here, but it's almost there. And then I've still got another side here. So in my head, I'd be thinking, yes, the answer would be more than 20 centimeters, because I can see that the blue line would be almost the base. It would be almost this side, and that will take me to 20 centimeters without even looking at this side here. So personally, I could have had a go at answering that question without measuring sides. I don't know how you find that, or you found that. Perhaps you could let me know when we come back to school. Okay. Hope you have a good rest of the day, and take care. Have a lovely weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.